One day the Eternal One called out to Abram, Abram, get up and go. Leave our country. Leave your relatives and your father's home and travel to the land I will show you. Don't worry, I will guide you there. I have plans to make a great people from your descendants. And I am going to put a special blessing on you and cause your reputation to grow so that you will become a blessing and example to others. I will also bless those who bless you and further you in your journey, and I'll trip up those who try to trip you along the way. Through your descendants, all of the families of the earth will find their blessing in you. Without any hesitation, Abram went. He did exactly as the Eternal One asked him to do. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. He took with him his wife Sarai, his brother's son Lot, all of their possessions, and all the persons they had acquired for their household while in Haran. And they all set off toward the land of Canaan. When they reached Canaan, Abram kept going through it to a sacred place called Shechem, where the oak of Morah stood. At this time, the Canaanite people were living on this land, so Abram could not take it as his own. There the Eternal appeared to Abram. I'm going to give this land to your future generations. So out of honor and respect, there Abram built an altar table to the Eternal One, who had appeared to him and spoken these words of promise.
Our second scripture this morning is from Hebrews chapter 11, starting with verse 8. By faith, Abraham heard God's call to travel to a place he would one day receive as an inheritance, and he obeyed, not knowing where God's call would take him. By faith, he journeyed to the land of the promise as a foreigner. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, his fellow heirs to the promise, because Abraham looked ahead to a city with foundations, a city laid out and built by God. By faith, Abraham's wife Sarah became fertile long after menopause because she believed that God would be faithful to his promise. So from this man, who was almost at death's door, God brought forth descendants, as many as the stars in the sky, and it's impossible to count as the sands of the shore. All these I've mentioned died in faith without receiving the full promises, although they saw the fulfillment as though from a distance. These people accepted and confessed that they were strangers and foreigners on this earth, because people who speak like this make it plain that they are still seeking a homeland. This was only a bit of nostalgia for a time and a place that they left behind, and certainly they might have turned around and returned. But such saints as these look forward to a far better place, a heavenly country. So God is not ashamed to be called their God, because he has prepared a heavenly city for them. By faith, Abraham, when he endured God's testing, offered his beloved son Isaac as a sacrifice. The one who had received God's promise was willing to offer his only son. God had told him, it's through Isaac that your descendants will bear your name. And he concluded that God was capable of raising him from the dead, which, figuratively, is indeed what happened. By faith, Isaac spoke blessings upon his sons, Jacob and Esau, concerning things yet to come. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
The serpent, snake, was the savviest of all of the creatures in the Creator's perfect plan. The reptile surveyed the scene with keen snake eyes, streetwise, armed with an arsenal of plausible lies, and slithered up to Eve, the woman, from her blind side, preserving the element of surprise. And he said, hello, child. How was your day? I overheard your conversation. I just had one simple question. Exactly what did the Creator say? That thing about the tree, the evil and the good, how do you know that you understood? Did he really say what you think you heard? Maybe your mind twisted up the words. Did he say hands off all the plants? Don't look, don't touch, don't taste? What a waste that would be. Eve, the woman, pointed out the tree with the taboo. The tree of the knowing, the good and evil too. She told the snake that God had made it drop dead clear, that everything else was free, every other tree. But if they took one tiny taste of the fruit of this particular one, they would absolutely, positively crash and burn. Said the snake, faking genuine concern. The deity's afraid of what you're gonna learn. With just one lie, you be just like him. Eyes wide open, knowing the heights of what humans can do, knowing the depths, the despicable too. God would have no tactical advantage over you. You and your man can have the run of the place, total control over the food you eat, the life you live, the path you choose. With just one small bite, you could gain the whole green world. And that means that God of yours would lose. The woman Eve walked closer and closer to the tree. She sniffed and felt fruit against her cheek. Totally wise, with open eyes, she said, "What's wrong with that? Maybe my man and I were born for this. Born to know, born to control, born to rule." She swallowed hard, and it was done. She gave some to her covenant partner, Adam. He opened his mouth and gobbled it down, and the universe was silent. It was the cool part of the day, and God was walking through the land he made, his ecosystem so magnificently put together, about to erode, about to implode before his sad and timeless eyes. He took one long last look and kissed the innocence goodbye. Eve, girl, what have you done? The ground is broken now, under a curse, from bad to worse. Now your eyes are wise and clear. Now you know shame. Now you know fear. Now you know you're naked. Now you run for cover. Well, here's what's gonna happen. Life will be shorter. Pain will be greater. Work will be harder. Grinding it out by the sweat on your brow, the blood on your hands, even the bond you have will now be strained, slightly off, distorted, reframed. And as for you, reptile, snake, Adam will crush your head. You will strike and bite his heel. You will feel the weight of the consequences of what you've done for eons. He looked them in the eye with a sigh. It's broken now, he said. serpent, he just smiled.
When the world falls apart, God is still here. When the world falls apart, our God is still here. We started a church campaign called The Story. Everybody say The Story.
The Story.
And I apologize, I couldn't be here. I had something come up. So we are in The Story, and The Story is a chronological layout from point A to point B of the Bible, so that when people ask, what does God have to say about my life, about this situation, about this thing, you can say, well, I learned, I read, I heard a story about a guy by the name of, a girl by the name of, and they have this situation in their life. Because the people in that book, the people in this book, are actually people. They actually lived, breathed, and most of them died here on this planet. Now we know that God's story, His grand narrative, includes not only us, you and me, it also includes these very people in this book, but it also includes one other element, which is known as the upper story. Everybody say the upper story.
The upper story.
The upper story, essentially, is what God is doing, His big master plan in all of this. How is God orchestrating all this? What is His bird's eye view, or higher than a bird's eye view, whatever that would be, His galaxy eye view of why things are the way they are? What sort of a tale is He weaving in and out of the lives of all of these characters? Last week, you guys talked a little bit about Genesis 1 through 6, about the story of God creating everything, and how He created it all. And we know that God is a God of relationship, right? He is a social network. He is a couple. He is multiple. He is friendship and love. And sometimes when you have entities, beings, people, whatever you want to call them, in love, they decide that they want to share that love. And God is the same way. At some point in the galactical time, He figured out, you know what, I really, really want to love somebody. I appreciate loving my son, Jesus. I appreciate loving my spirit, however all that works. We don't have near enough time to get into that. But I want to share that with somebody else. And so God comes down and He begins to prepare the baby's room. Right? He starts laying the foundations. He paints the walls, makes sure there's good lighting. He puts some flowers in the room. Put some cute little animals in there so that everybody enjoys that. He sets the temperature just the right amount. Puts everything in place so that when He births His creation, they will have a perfect place to grow, to be loved, to experience that relationship that is at His very core. And so He gives birth to Adam and Eve, so to speak. He breathes life into them. And things are going good for a while, and then it all falls apart, right? As we know, love isn't love unless you choose it. And so rather than force His will on these two, He gives them the option of breaking it all. The option of failure. And that's what they choose. As the video said, it's broken now. All the time, all the effort, all the care, the intricacy, the detail that went into setting this perfect place, this perfect harmony, this perfect relationship was undone in a moment of weakness. And so God had to move Adam and Eve out of that. They had to learn the error of their ways. They had to experience what it felt like to fall so that they could recognize their need to be picked back up. And things were okay, but God realized that, you know what, it's still falling apart. We have a good guy named Noah, but he's the only one. Everybody else, their lives, their hearts are still evil all the time. So what we need to do is, we've got to do something else. We've got to find a way to fix it. We've got to put it back together. And so God, in all His infinite wisdom, decided that He's going to build a nation. Everybody say, build a nation.
Build a nation.
Now say it with a lot of, build a nation.
Build a nation.
I know I've been gone a week. You guys are way off there. And so God builds a nation, a way back into that relationship with Him, a way back into the family, a way back into the home, a way back into paradise. And with a nation, you need people. Everybody say people.
People.
Right, people. And so you need to have people. And so God, in His infinite wisdom, He's looking at this situation. I'm going to build this huge nation. And so what I need to do is I need to start with somebody with a lot of potential, right? If we're going to have a nation which includes a lot of people, that includes a lot of reproducing. And so we need to pick people with a lot of vitality. This is going to be an exhausting endeavor. We need to pick people with a lot of energy. We need to pick people with a lot of gusto. And so God, in His infinite wisdom, decides to pick 2 people who are old enough to qualify for discounted meals at IHOP. Turn with me to Genesis chapter 12. Genesis chapter 12. I know you guys thought you were done with Genesis. We're not going to be here for very long, though. Genesis chapter 12, starting with verse 1. Or if you want to follow along in your story, it's chapter 2. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1 says, "The Lord had said to Abram, 'Leave your country, your people, your father's household, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great. You will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. Whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you.'" In creation, we learned that the core, the point of who God is that He wants to be with us. The mountains are good. The oceans are good. The skies are good. The sunsets are good. The fish are good. The animals are good. It's all good. But the only very good thing, the only great thing is when God is in relationship with man and woman. He desperately wants to be with us. And so the Lord said to Abraham, "Go. Go." Now, Abraham and Sarai are 75 years old and 65 years old. I don't know if you've noticed, people who are 75 and 65 don't go anywhere. At least not very fast. Anybody signing up for a marathon anytime soon? Okay. I don't even move very fast, okay? So don't. He tells them to go. Go. Now this is a huge thing, right? We read through it, we see, okay, he told them to go. Yes, okay, that's great. Leave your father's household. Okay, father's household. Okay, that's where he lives. Let me break it down into terms that we can all understand. Okay, Abram, at this point, he wakes up in the morning. This is his daily routine. Okay, he wakes up with the sun, and he goes down to where all the other men are eating and drinking their breakfast. And he sits there and he talks about the day. Hot today, isn't it? Yep, sure is. How's the sheep doing? I got one that's kind of deadbeat. Okay over there? Well, you know, we could use some more rain. And they sit there and they talk about these types of things for quite some time. And then Abram, he goes back home to the tent, and he tinkers for a while, right? He finds things to do. Now, go feed the sheep, tent peg's coming up, I gotta make sure that's down good. Just making sure things are taken care of. That's Abram. Eventually he'll make his way back to the place where all the men are gathered to eat and drink, and he'll hang out with them for a little while longer. Sarai, her life is very similar. In the morning she'll wake up with the sun. She'll make sure that Abram has something to eat. And then she'll go and gather with the ladies down by the watering hole, and they will discuss their husbands and their families and their homes and all of those things. The place where Abram had breakfast. The place where Abram got his haircut. The place where Abram picked up his groceries. The place where his animals ate. The place where he lived. The place where he grew up. The place where he felt comfortable. All his friends. All his neighbors. All the people that he knew and loved. And God said, go. Leave them. Suddenly that story, that person, those people become a lot more realistic, right? Imagine if God told you just to leave your home, your job, your family, your friends, your local place that you like to eat. Walk away from everything that you knew and were comfortable with. That is the only active verb that God gives to Abraham. It's the only thing he has to do. Go. It's not a big thing. It's a hard thing. But that's it. God says, I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great. And you will be, which is passive. Abraham doesn't have to do anything. You will be a blessing because of all those things. Abram, you go, and I'll take care of the rest. You take the first step, and I'll help you with the rest. Bless those who bless you. Whoever curses you, I'll curse. All the peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Again, Abraham, all you got to do is go. I will bless, I will curse, I will control. I'll take care of those things. You just need to be faithful. I don't know if you know this or not. The older we get, the less we like change. Be it in church or elsewhere. The saying goes, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? Sometimes that old dog will bite you for trying to teach them new tricks, right? And this is a major life change. God, this is crazy. Why would you do this? It's impossible. Why would you choose them? And time goes on and things happen, and Abram and Sarai, they're trying to be faithful, they're following God, it's all good and dandy, but it seems like God is taking a long time. God, you're taking a long, long time. And don't you know that we can't have kids? Sarai was barren. Everybody say barren. Barren. Meaning she can't have kids, okay? She was sterile. She could not have children. Besides the fact that she's 65 years old. She's kind of past her prime for having kids. Sometimes it takes an impossible situation to see an impossible God. God must be taking too long, they said. He must need some help. God needs help. Okay. So I tell you what, God, since you're having trouble with this whole starting a nation thing, this whole descendants as numerous as the stars thing, let me help you out. I'm going to give my husband this lovely lady named Hagar. She's my servant girl. She's been with me for a couple of years. And we're going to do a surrogate program. God looks at the situation and says, well, okay. Now, I'm going to give him descendants. But you guys kind of really missed the boat here. This is not how we're going to do it. It's going to come from you, Sarah. So you need to send Hagar and her son away. God, what are you doing? 25 years of waiting. 25 years after God said, go. I will do this. Just go. Wait on me. 25 years. And he gives Abram a new name. He says, Abram, your new name is Abraham, which is father of many. Father of many. And you want to change my name to Abraham? When I introduce myself to people, I have to say, hi, my name is Father of many. Well, where are your kids? I don't have any. God, you're going to make me the laughingstock of my little community. You're going to make me seem like a fool. God, this doesn't make any sense. It's impossible. We're too old. We're too far. We're away from home. We're uncomfortable. Things just aren't working. We tried something else. You said that wasn't good enough. And now it almost seems like you're mocking me. He says, that's not all. You're going to name your wife Sarai. Her new name is Sarah, which means princess. Princess. Every time Sarah gets together, every time she goes to the watering hole, she has to hear these stories from the other women about their kids. She has to, when she goes to get groceries, she has to watch all these other moms with their little ones running alongside of her, and she longs in her heart to be a mother, and she can't. She feels like a failure as a wife, as a mother, as a woman. Her value in this society is based on whether or not she can produce children. So she feels personally that she has no value. She feels like she has let down her husband. She feels like in society she has no value. She feels like a failure. She certainly doesn't feel like a princess. It's an impossible situation. But sometimes it takes impossible situations to see an impossible God. And when situations look impossible, God gets the glory. If it were easy, if it were doable, if it were controlled and easily manipulated, then, well, that could be explained away. But sometimes it takes an impossible situation, a difficult time, a difficult circumstance for God to be recognized. And it's in those moments that God gets the last laugh. In this case, he really does. Because after 25 years of waiting, Abraham, father of many, and Sarah, princess, give birth to a baby boy named Isaac, whose name means laughter. And the nation begins. Sometimes it takes an impossible situation to see an impossible God. Everybody awake, say amen.
Amen.
Only 14 more pages, I promise. Thanks for that. Parker Brian Carroll was born at 9:56 p.m. on Thursday, September the 12th, 2013. He weighed 2 pounds, 12 ounces, and was 15 inches long. He was born via emergency C-section after being transported from Morris, Illinois, up to Maywood, Illinois, to Loyola University Medical Center. You guys know this story. It was explained a little bit to you last week. And so you know the chaos. You know the trauma, the confusion. And it would be easy to say why. It would be easy to say, how could you let this happen, God? It would be easy to point fingers and ask questions, to blame ourselves, to blame him, to blame other people, to blame anything that we ate, to But if we did that, who would miss the miracle in the mess. Don't miss it. It all comes down to trust, right? After an impossible weekend, God is still here. And he asks us the question, just like he asked Abraham and Sarah for 25 years. Do you trust me? Do you trust me? Remember, his mission, his goal, his purpose, his core, the reason he created everything was to be with us. Do you trust him? Genesis chapter 22. 15 years later, Genesis 22 says, sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am, he replied. Then God said, take your son, your only son whom you love, Isaac. Go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain that I will show you. Say what? God, have you not been paying attention? Remember, we went through this, right? The difficult part of my life was over. I had that spell for 25 years where things were really hard, and then it was supposed to all pick up from there. 25 years of waiting. 25 years of people asking me, well, what's wrong? And now you want me to take my son, my only son, and you want me to sacrifice him. God whispers, do you trust me? Do you trust me? It's impossible. Sometimes our perspective in the lower story is limited, right? Everybody say lower story?
Lower story.
Limited, yeah. Sometimes we're down here and we can't see what he sees up there. We see our stories, we see the impossible situations in front of us, and we go, God, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? What's all this about? I don't understand. What did we do wrong? Sometimes our perspective in the lower story is limited. We just can't see it all. Sometimes God allows us to go through impossible situations so that we can answer that question. Do you trust Him? He needs to know that you trust Him. And you need to know that you trust Him. May get rough here, but we'll see. So, my wife had a perfect pregnancy. No morning sickness. She was eating fine. Healthy weight gain. Baby was good. Good weight, good size. Blood pressure under control. She was exercising every day. She was mowing. Thursday, September 12th, she wakes up. Doesn't feel quite right. We go back and forth. Are we going to go to the doctor? Yeah, we're going to go to the doctor. We go over to immediate care in North, and they do some tests and see that her blood pressure is 192. For those of you who know anything about blood pressure, that is astronomical. They take her to Morris Hospital, to labor and delivery over there, to run some more tests, just for a 24-hour observation. More tests are done, blood taken, urine taken, and they find out that her liver enzymes are high, her platelets, which are responsible for the blood clotting, the body healing itself, are very low. And our OB comes in and he says, "You're going to have a premature baby and he's going to be here tonight." Surprise. My wife is rushed in an ambulance up to Loyola Medical Center. I get there a little while after. They went a little bit faster than me. I get there and the parade of specialists starts. Anesthesiologists, surgeons, nurses, pediatricians, all of these people that we have no idea who they are, but they keep introducing themselves for some reason. And they come in the room and they say, "Hi, my name is and I'm and this is what we're going to do." And my wife is, "Okay. We're not going to remember their names or what they did." They run in there, they do their thing. And there's a moment, quiet, before the storm. Because her body was the way that it was, she was going to have to be under general anesthesia, which meant that Dad couldn't be in the room or see anything that happened. No, honey, just breathe. No, you did this to me! No cutting the cord. No hearing the first cry. None of that. The ideal situation, it was not. And up to that point, I had been good. I had been controlled. I had been calm-ish, collected, because I needed to be. But that moment before they wheeled her into the operating room, I sat there on the chair while my wife was in a bed, and she could read it on me. I was scared. Terrified. She called me to bedside, grabbed my hand, told me it was going to be okay. And then they took her back. And for about an hour, hour 15 minutes, hour and a half, I waited. Prayed. Didn't know if my 29-week-old son was going to make it. Didn't know if my wife was going to bleed out on the operating table. Didn't know any of that. So there they were, laid out on the altar. And God says, "I need you to sacrifice them. Are you willing to do that? Do you trust me?" So I sat in my chair and I prayed my little heart out. And I said, "God, it's all up to you. There's nothing I can do." An hour 15 after they took her back, Harper was wheeled past our door. She said, "Do you want to see him?" A dumb question. Of course I did. And they took him back up to the neonatal intensive care unit. And they continued to stitch my wife up. I asked if she was okay. They said, "Yeah, she's good." We just put her back together. Whew! Good thing, right? A couple days later, my wife and I are up in the neonatal intensive care. We had just seen Parker. We're waiting in the waiting room. We're having a conversation, and we just unloaded everything to each other. All the stress, all the worries, all the concerns. How's he going to do? I didn't want him to go through this. I didn't want him to have to be in here for so long. I didn't want him to have to face all the struggles that he's going to face. Why can't I just hold him yet? Why can't I just take a nap with him? Why can't we feed him the way that we want to? Why can't we do some of these things? How are we going to pay for all this? All of this stuff that is huge, huge questions and impossible circumstances. If you've ever had a child in the intensive care unit, you know that sometimes it takes an impossible situation to see an impossible God. And so after being up in the waiting room for about an hour, talking and crying and hugging and crying some more. We made our way back down to my wife's hospital room. She had to go to the bathroom. She went to the bathroom. She said, "We don't have any toilet paper." And you go see if you can find some. Sure. So I went back out. No joke, this is right after having this conversation. Went back to the nurse's station. And sitting on the edge of the desk was 2 rolls of toilet paper. And nobody knew how they got there. None of the nurses, nobody that had been sitting there all night. Nobody claimed the toilet paper. I knew where they came from. Do you trust me? I'll take care of you. I will provide. The nurses said that they had never seen anybody so excited about toilet paper. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the 2 of them went off together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, "Father?" "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "The fire and the wood are here," Isaac said, "but where's the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." And the 2 of them went on together. Abraham received his son Isaac back from death to life. I received my wife and my son from possible death back to life. Whether you're hurting or confused or alone, God is still here. If life doesn't make sense and it seems like you are just facing a huge obstacle, God is still here. If it seems like nothing else is going to work right and the world falls apart in one brief, very quick moment, God is still here. And when it seems like you are facing an impossible situation, no matter how hard it is, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how unexpected it is, no matter how big it is, God is still bigger, He is still stronger, and He will always provide because He is still here. God is asking you today, do you trust me? I'm still here. I love you. And I always will. God, I thank you. I thank you for my son and my wife. Thank you for reassuring me that everything was going to be okay. And I know not everybody has the ending that we had. Everybody has their struggle in life. Everybody has their difficult situation to overcome. But the one truth remains that you are still here. That you still want to be with us, to know us, to share your love with us. Father, thank you for loving us enough to provide for our needs. It's in your Son's name.